Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live here from the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee tonight and every night, hopefully forever and ever. We love you, Folgers. Thank you so much. Would not be the same without you being a part of our journey. You make it that much more wonderful. Big thank you also to Dr. Justin Snicker, aka the Sonic Surgeon, who is award-winning composer of Halloween horror sci-fi. I'm trying to get that all in one sentence, and dark wave electronic music. His music is available on places like Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, any other platform that streams good tunes. So we thank you for your sponsorship and generous contribution to our show, for your intro and outro. We thank you big time. You'll notice tonight, guys, that Bubbles is not on with me again. She's still down for the count. So we just need to send her that much more lovins and a whole lot of well wishes and prayers. She's just fighting this bug and it's just catching the best of her, but I know she's feisty and she's definitely going to take this thing head on. She's just about at that point right now where she's ready to go total postal on them, so that's going to be a thing. So wishing her well. Hopefully if she's up for it, she'll be in chat and she'll be able to join us at that point. But in order to participate in tonight's show, guys, we are basically in our main streams, but there's some issues with some of our Facebook streams. So heads up on that. Right now, what I'm seeing coming through is our normal Outer Realm on Facebook. Of course, we have Joe Montaldo UFO Undercover and Canada's Most Haunted. We don't have our usual Facebook pages. They are just not kicking in for whatever reason. Facebook is having some hiccups. You can find us on, I believe we are on Twitter. I cannot see Twitter in the chat room though, guys, so I apologize for that. It just does not come up here at all. YouTube, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. You can find me on my personal page, Michelle Desrochers at the Outer Realm Radio, archive page there, and UFO Paranormal Radio as well on YouTube. So that seems to be where we are at for this evening, and I can see you all in chat, so this will be a good thing. So anyway, Facebook having some hiccups and we are just not being shown the love, Facebook. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you. Typical Skeptic Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Good friend of our guest, Jim Girouard, who's just a sweetheart. So we're just going to be waiting for him. And yes, we are on Twitter. I just can't see the Twitter chat, unfortunately, but nice to see you, Janie, Dolly. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you. Thank you. Waiting for everybody to roll on in, and everything is filling up. So like I said, a few little problems, which is not fun when you're trying to get this thing sorted out. So a few hiccups, but hopefully Facebook will work it out. But hey, it's on the Outer Realm and that's what matters, right? So, and of course we do have our YouTube, which does get quite a few listens. Of course, the biggest concern is that if it keeps the hiccup, if you guys do find that the show is just gone from any of the YouTube pages, please, or rather Facebook pages, please head over, get onto the live link, which is on my private page or the Outer Realm page. You can, anywhere that you can go to my private page, grab the live link from there, or go right to UFO Paranormal on YouTube. And those are still like doing fine. So find us there, please. Hey, Allison. So don't despair, because it would be a darn shame. So Jim, of course, you guys know, has been on before. He's just a sweetheart. He is an award-winning artist, songwriter, author of 3 published books, which are on Amazon. He's invented a divination method using lettered dice and teaching the method online. And he starts with a palm reading, and you guys get to buy the dice and do the throws. And he can actually decipher everything. He can decode them. I'll tell you something. Before he came on the first time, he did my palmistry and such. And I have to say, he was freaking pretty spot on. I have a lot of people throughout my couple of decades of doing this and who've tried to read me, some successful, some not so much. And I was really curious about this method, and he offered, and I thought, oh, I would love to. And holy crud, it was pretty impressive. He said he received a night vision in 1970 and was warned by the revelation to avoid loans and banks and corporations. He never had a credit card. He's never took out a loan. He's never established a credit history and never went into debt. Kudos to him for that. He stayed under the radar, never even went to college, joined the military, started a business. He bought everything on his own with cash, and he saved up over the years and basically probably did it right, if you ask me. But tonight, we're actually going to be getting into something entirely different. He is versed in many things, and one of those things is extensively on magic. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about time travel. Two of my favorite topics. It's funny because out of all the time we've been on the outer realm, we've had very few people come on board wanting to talk about magic, a couple on time travel. And this month, it just happened to be that, we've got 3 people who are on talking about magic. So I'm thinking, that's fantastic. So really looking forward to what he's going to be contributing as far as that goes. I know that Joe and I did a show on time travel and dimensions and interdimensions and multiverses. And hey, Wayne, and I have to tell you, that show on the Gray Zone, which was like, typically it's still an anomaly to me, because this is a show that airs like at dinner time on a Saturday. You don't really expect to get many people. And that show has hit almost 4.5 million live listeners. And we're just like, what? So we've had to step up our game. But that specific show just did ridiculously well. We were just like, so there's obviously a really big interest for it, and everybody's got different techniques, and everybody's got their own opinions on it. So tonight is just another one of those things, and I know it's going to be a blast. So everybody, here is our guest of honor. Whoo, Jim. Jim, how's it going? Oh, and Amelia's in the chat. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Do you have it sound? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we are. Okay.
I had a double echo there, so I had to turn it down.
So you didn't hear me going, Jim? No, not at all. Just rooting you on. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, my pleasure. We had so much fun with you before. Amelia is actually still fighting a COVID bug. So she is in chat room on the Outer Realm page. Oh, yeah, she's been fighting it now. I think it's like day 22 or something utterly crazy like that. So, yeah, she hasn't been here for probably about 3 weeks, but she is in the chat. So every now and then she might just fire off a question out of the chat room, and I will put it up like this. So here she's saying, if you can see that, she says, hello, Jim. That is Amelia. There we go. And, Wayne says, he loves the artwork in your background. So, yes, Jim is an artist. So that is wonderful. He loves your artwork. So tonight, we're talking about something entirely different. We sort of left off the last show as, let's talk about maybe time travel or magic. Where do you want to start with all this? And I will just follow along and versed in my own right, and I'll keep up. No problem.
Okay, there's a guy named Frank Jacob who wrote an article.
He's on tomorrow night.
Oh, really?
I love it. Yes, you guys are awesome.
Did you hear about him through me?
No, he actually approached me to come on the show, so I thought it was fantastic. So please tell us about it. You're just going to hype everybody up.
Oh, lot of buzz on this one.
Us, awesome. So take
Yeah,
her away.
Frank Jacob wrote an article about the Guardians of the Looking Glass, which is a time travel sort of technology. I think they got it out of a flying saucer that had crashed.
Right.
These Guardians, they just, recently emerged like out of nowhere, it seemed. And, this guy, Frank Jacob, did the article and then he got interviewed by Inspired.
Yes.
And
Yes.
man, this thing just took off like crazy.
Right. Right. Yeah, I am looking forward to it. I don't really know. He's just a wealth of information, much like yourself. So I really don't know where it's going to go, but I'm really looking forward to it. So you listened to this, I guess, and this inspired you, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I've always had a big interest in time travel.
Yes. I think a lot of people do. It's such a curiosity, and there's so much that's online about it, but you almost have to ask yourself what's real and what's not real. So what is like, where has your research with it taken you?
Well, getting back to the Guardians of the Looking Glass,
Mhm.
the final conclusion is that we do go back onto the right timeline.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that everybody's really looking for at this point.
It has to happen because we've been completely side railed into
Yeah,
a
I
whole
mean,
other existence, you know?
I think what's been happening, is that, someone has been pissing on your leg and telling you it's raining. And now
Yes.
what they're doing is they're pissing on their own leg and telling themselves it's raining.
Right. That's pretty much the best way I've heard it put. It's definitely a thing, and it's really starting to just peeve a lot of people off. I think we're a little bit fed up.
Yeah,
So
I
where
mean,
should we be at, Jim? Like, I mean,
uh,
when
you
did this
know,
happen? When did we get side railed?
that's the question, isn't it?
It's a big question. I think it's
That,
like,
that,
what were the
that's really
sequence of
where,
events?
where did we become complacent, and then at what point do you compromise your priorities?
Right. Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of people's priorities got compromised a long time ago.
You're not wrong. You're
Yeah.
not wrong.
So,
Integrity, priorities, everything
okay,
just out the window.
here's what I think is happening right now.
Okay.
I did a reading on this a couple days ago, and what the reading said was that there would be this multi-dimensional portal, specially designed for people who haven't made the transitional shift of frequency in order to go through the portal.
Wow.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
Yeah,
Like,
that's going to be a tough one for some people because they
yeah.
don't understand what it means.
Well, what's happening is we're transitioning into a new reality. Okay, so in order to resonate with that reality and go into it, your frequency has to be on a higher level.
Hmm.
Okay, so there's a lot of people who are deserving of this, but their frequency isn't on that higher level.
Right.
Okay, so I want to try and explain to you what I got from this reading, and
Okay.
when I first saw it, I'm sort of understanding it from a linear sort of perspective because I'm in the awake state. I'm using the thinking mind in the awake state. So my understanding of it was sort of linear, and then I got a deeper understanding about what I want to describe to you as a download.
Right. Yeah, I
Okay.
get them. Yeah.
Yeah, there are downloads that happen from like up here, which is the seventh chakra, which means it's telepathic.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to try and explain to you how this telepathic system works
Okay.
by telling you a story of a friend of mine who in the late 1960s was in Superstition Mountains in Arizona.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a pretty intense place. Okay.
Yeah, you probably heard about the stories about the entities that showed up and just scared the living daylights out of people.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
For starters.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so he's in the garden.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This entity shows up. And he's not disturbed by this. In fact, he just keeps doing what he's doing in the garden. And so now this entity starts realizing, oh, here's a human that's not afraid of, an entity from the spirit world.
Right.
So this entity just becomes more and more curious. Okay. So the way that he ignores this entity is he starts thinking of a song, a popular song,
Right.
and he's running this popular song through his mind. Okay. So now the entity can't get into his head.
Right. Hopefully it was
Okay.
an annoying song.
Now what happens is the entity goes back to headmaster legion of these spirits. I don't know if they're good or bad or angels or
Right.
demons. I don't know what they are.
Right.
But he goes back to the hive mind there and he says, hey, look, we got a human over here in the garden and he's not afraid of me. So maybe he'll be afraid of us,
Right.
Okay, so, headmaster and all the legions of these, interdimensional beings,
Hmm.
they come back and they approach him and they all realize he's not afraid of any of them. Okay.
Right.
So now he's telepathically communicating with these beings, these entities from the spirit world.
Right.
Okay. So the way that they communicate with him is that they create this thought form. It's like a bubble. Okay. And inside this bubble is hundreds of visual images. Okay. And then what they do is they project this thought form into his mind. And then the thought form opens up and he sees all of these hundreds of images and he gets the whole entire story in a split second.
Wow.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the way that we communicate is you think of an idea that you want to tell somebody and you visualize it in your mind.
Right.
And then you think of the words.
Yeah.
And then you vocally try to describe, one image at a time.
Yeah.
It's very slow and very time consuming.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times it's very difficult to get the visual image across using words.
Right. It's true.
That's why you'll always hear people say things like, I can't think of the words to describe it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason that I'm, going over this sort of telepathic system that they have in the spirit world is because these people that are now wanting to transition into the new reality haven't raised their vibration. They can get this telepathic download and go through the portal.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's sort of like a fail-safe.
Right.
It's a fail-safe that's created by nature that exists in the universe.
Right. Right.
And the reason that this is happening is because the time factor has run out.
Okay. Wow.
There is no time left to get ready.
Wow. Wow.
And these people are not ready.
No. No.
Okay. They're deserving. They have good hearts and they're deserving.
Yeah.
Okay. So something special has to happen to allow them through this multidimensional portal
Mm-hmm.
so they can transition with the rest of us.
Right. Yes. Well, I just want to hit a couple of questions before we go on, because then once the stream is gone, it's gone. In your opinion, do you feel timelines are straight lines or intersect?
Wow, that's a great question.
Yeah, we got good people in chat.
I believe they do intersect. And the reason I say that is because all these other timelines, you can think of them as a parallel world, let's say. And, if you think of this timeline as a straight line, and that there's these other timelines which are running right next to the one that we're on, the frequency of these other timelines is only a fraction of a degree different than the one that we're on.
No, that's true. It is just a smidge off, isn't it?
Okay, so what happens is, because the frequencies are so small and they're so closely together, the timelines overlap. Okay, so if the question here is, do they intersect? I think of that as overlapping.
Overlapping. So do you think then, if that's the situation, all of these entities and spirits that we see, do you think it's a bleed through from another dimension, like one of these overlapping dimensions? Are we really looking at lost souls, or are we looking at an overlap?
I believe it's both intersecting and overlapping.
Wow, interesting.
That entities as well as other timelines are coming in because, like I said, the amount of frequency difference is so small
Hmm.
that the overlapping and the intersecting is happening all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you on that. I think it's multi dimensions in a way too. It's not necessarily even one. Typical skeptic, one of your good friends who's been waiting for you, says, "I think it was some rogue Anunnaki that hijacked our timeline. When you read the tablets of Enlil, says to Enki, where you went, you were to break the chain and set us free." Sorry, that's me.
Oh, that was you?
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be off. I thought I had the volume down. So
Yeah.
bad timing, because nobody in my family knows I do a show for the last like several years at this time. So apologies, everybody. Um, okay, so what's your thoughts on what he's saying about Enki and Enlil, the Anunnaki?
Well, the whole idea is liberation.
Okay.
The whole idea really is to be set free from this octopus-like stranglehold that's been upon us for probably thousands of years.
Right.
With the English language is basically a language of black magic spells that's sort of tied in with the money system,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
this vision that I had in 1970 that I was telling you about, it's all about the money system. Okay. Now in Revelation it says that the Antichrist is the number of a man.
Right.
It doesn't say it's a man.
Mm-hmm.
So, you hear all this stuff all the time. Oh, Obama's the Antichrist, Bush is the Antichrist, Trump's the Antichrist. Spin a wheel, okay?
Right.
Every year it's a different Antichrist. So, the Antichrist is not a man.
Mm-hmm.
It is a money system of numbers.
Right. Right.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the magic? The magic is when you go into a store with a piece of paper that has a number on it. You take an item off the shelf. You hand the piece of paper with the number to the clerk, and you walk out with the item.
Right. Right.
That if that's not magic, I don't know what it is.
Well, it's interesting,
You know?
magic. Is it an antichrist? I know
It's
some,
magic.
you might have some faithful people say to you, I don't know, because, you have this wonderful thing and then something, or it seems too good to be true. And I mean, the idea of the Antichrist, like right now, the new one is Elon Musk because he's that sort of wolf in sheep's clothing, doing what Antichrists do, which is supposed to make everything wonderful, work for the people, root, rah, rah. And then all of a sudden it goes terribly wrong. And then somebody else comes in being the savior, saves the day. So if this is the whole thing, who's going to save the day? That's what I want to know.
I'm totally convinced now that I've seen all these presidents. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm totally convinced that the reason that we have a president
right.
is so that at least 50% of the population of the country can bitch and complain about somebody.
Right. That's the whole
I,
population.
I mean,
We all have somebody to bellyache about.
it's like having a voodoo doll.
Right, right,
You're
right,
sticking them pins in the voodoo doll, but you're
right,
talking about the president.
right, right. It can get pretty technical. I think what it comes down to then is, well, actually, I'll just put the next question up for you. How does one raise a vibration? Is that the way out?
Okay, one thing that if anybody's listening, if they want to really get into this, there's a guy named Gene Decode. You ever hear of him?
I have not.
Okay, Gene Decode. If you go to his YouTube channel and get his email, write him an email and say, please send me the protocol.
Okay.
And then he'll email you back with a PDF file, which has a protocol that shows you how to remove the nanobots and the nanoworms from your blood system.
Okay, so you'll have to just email me that. I can't write it
Yeah,
down.
I did it. I got the PDF, and what it
Okay.
is, you fill the tub up with really hot water, as hot
Right,
as you can stand it.
right,
You put in like a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of laundry detergent, and you put in a cup of alfalfa pellets, which they feed to rabbits.
right.
Okay, so then what happens is the nanobots and the nanoworms get removed through your skin.
Okay.
Okay, and the way that you can tell that happens is you get yourself a little black light flashlight, like off of Amazon. They're only about $10.
Right.
Okay, so you get the black light flashlight. You turn the lights off after you take this hot bath, and you just shine it on your arms and your legs and see if there's any of these nanobots coming out of your body.
That's crazy. So, how does one get said nanobots in the first place?
That chemtrails,
Come on, really?
yeah,
Wow, I never would have guessed that. I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
they're unhealthy for so many other reasons, but
I mean, you have to breathe the air.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where they come from. But there was no nanobots coming out of my body, and I'm going to tell you why.
Please, I want in on that.
Okay, so for about the past 10 years, I've been taking what's called diatomaceous earth.
Okay,
Now, what the diatomaceous earth does is it gets rid of parasites out of your bloodstream, okay? And these nanoworms are parasites.
right.
Okay, here's the other thing. If somebody decides to get the diatomaceous earth and they want to order it online, they have to get food grade.
Mhm.
Because if they don't get the food grade, they might wind up buying the type of diatomaceous earth that they feed to cows.
Hmm.
There's two types. You got to get the food grade.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing about diatomaceous earth. It contains monatomic gold.
Right.
Okay, So, instead of spending $35 to $50 a month getting monatomic gold, you can get a bag of diatomaceous earth, which is about 5 pounds, for about $20.
All these little secrets we're finding out. You don't have to email me all this stuff because I will not remember it. I'm
Yeah,
just like going
you know,
along.
a
Wow.
5 pound bag will last you about 5 years.
Wow.
And it's only about $20 because you're only going to ingest about a half a teaspoon a day, or once a
Wow.
week is good.
And this just sort of like purges these
It
nanoworms,
kills the parasites.
the parasites. Wow. I That's definitely an eye opener. I would never have even thought that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times animals are being fed better than we're eating.
Apparently. I'm guessing they don't have all the nano issues we have either.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
do they? Because they're breathing the same air.
yeah, like if you have a cat or a dog, let's say, these diet things that they create for dogs and cats is all measured out.
Oh yeah, I just do raw food.
And the way that we eat is just kind of random and chaotic.
Right, right.
But I wanted to say that this one thing because I've been feeding birds almost all my life, and
Yeah,
a lot of people throw bread out to birds.
it's not good for them.
No, it's not good.
Yeah. No,
They'll eat it because they're starving, okay?
yeah.
But their nervous system isn't designed to digest bread.
No, it bloats their stomachs, people. We have to
Yeah,
remember that. Yeah.
totally not good for birds.
No, no, exactly.
So I don't know why, but people just throw them the bread thinking that this is good for them or whatever. But
No, it's not. It's terrible for them. Right.
they'll eat like pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and things like that because every species is designed by nature to be living a certain way, eating a certain way.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You're not wrong on that. We are all designed differently from the inside out. Wayne says, I've heard that the timelines began a collision course starting in 2012 and are going to come to a massive intersection where all the timelines will be one. What are your thoughts on that? Well, that's
I've,
interesting.
I've had some thoughts on that one, and I've been kind of wondering about it myself because, when it comes to timelines, there seems to be different perspectives on how they merge and if they merge and how many timelines they are. Like Starfire Tour is saying that there's no such thing as parallel timelines. When you really think about all of this stuff that has to do with
Mhm.
timelines, I mean, how much of it do you really understand?
Absolutely. I don't think there is. I mean, my gosh, unless you're a physicist who this is all they work on, it's a lifetime of research. And even then, how much do you really know?
I think my best perspective on this is that there seems to be two timelines, and one of them is like the right timeline, and the other one is sort of like scumbag timeline. You know,
We're all in the scumbag timeline, I'm sure.
yeah, we've all been there, right?
Right. I want out.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's get back to the priority thing for a second.
Right.
Okay, a long time ago, I think for most people, their priorities, if they had any to begin with, were compromised. And
Right.
it's not very hard to do that because, most of us are born into like some form of poverty. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go from poverty to like all of a sudden winning the lottery, which is huge because you've never had large amounts of money in your whole life. Now all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden you're coming into like tens of millions of dollars. Uh, you have no training to handle all of that money and all that power.
Oh, it's true.
Okay,
Absolutely correct.
what happens is this system, which is so big and so powerful, it kind of like draws us in, and we become seduced by it.
Hmm.
It happens to everybody.
Right. Right.
I mean, you look at these cops, right? They go in there with good intentions. They want justice. They want to protect people. And then somebody comes along and says, "Hey, look, if you don't, serve the Gestapo or the mafia or the mob or whatever it is,
Hmm.
if you don't work for us, we're going to kill your family."
Hmm.
So what's he going to do?
Yeah. Right.
He's going to go along with it because he's
Yeah.
got no choice, but he just he just compromised all his priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it can get tricky. Like Tamara says, I wonder if the timelines merge. Is it that the same as saying the deceased are resurrected because everyone would show up at once? That's
Oh,
interesting.
this is a really good subject.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, it's a
Thanks,
really
Tamara.
good question because I really wondered about this for many, many years because, like, there seems to be like a biblical kind of reference about the resurrection and stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, these things that are written in the Bible are really, really, spot on, correct, and accurate and everything. But um, they're not to be understood with the thinking mind so much.
Hmm. Right.
But if you approach the understanding with an energetic perspective, then you can get the real picture.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if you understand revelation in terms of this big energetic perspective, it all has to do with certain frequencies that are coming in, like from stars and in the sun,
Hmm.
from the universe. There's all these frequencies that are coming in
Right.
that are uh, affecting and manipulating the time stream.
Right.
Right? So when these frequencies come in and they affect the time stream, you get these fluctuations in perception.
Right.
And that's what the revelation is really talking about is these fluctuations in perception.
Hmm.
That's why, like in one of the interviews I had with Typical Skeptic, I was talking about what the glitch in the Matrix was.
Yeah, that's a big
And
one.
then I said to him that the Matrix is the glitch.
Okay, so please enlighten us on that one. And how is that possible? As most people look at the Matrix as that's the prison right there.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the material world is what the Sanskrit language describes as illusion.
Right.
And the Krishna books describe it as Maya.
Okay.
Maya means illusion. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
so to begin with, we're in this illusion, and especially like in the awake state, like I'm thinking I'm a man, that I live in a certain state, that I have a certain amount of friends, a family, a certain amount of money, and all these things, all these thoughts that I have is all illusion.
Hmm.
But what the Krishna books describe as the real you is a spiritual spark, which is 10,000 times smaller than the head of a pin. It's a spark of energy. Okay,
Wow. Yeah.
that's what you are.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like a grain of sand on a very big beach, as I usually say. Yeah.
Yes, but this spark is in every cell of your body.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm following. Yeah.
so now when a person dies, if that spark exits out of the lower part of the body, like the three bottom chakras,
Hmm.
the spirit soul goes into some hellish realms.
Okay.
But if that spark exits from the heart chakra or the fifth or sixth or seventh chakra, the spirit soul can attain heavenly planets that are in the material world. But if a person is self-realized, and if that person dies during the day, and if they're awake, their spirit soul catapults out of the body and travels through the sun and goes back to the spiritual world, which
Okay.
is the original place.
So Amelia says, how do you define hellish realms while we're on the topic?
Self-created hellish realms is mental prisons. I mean, we're already in a sort of hell already.
Yeah.
Living on Earth and
The prison planet kind of
in a
thing, right?
physical body. We're in a mental prison already.
Right.
But
Right.
there are mental prisons, like hellish mental prisons, that are created by being extremely angry and greedy and things like that.
Right.
And if you can't overcome those types of emotions, what happens is these lower vibrational, what they call airs. They call them air. They call it air because it's like air in a sense.
Yeah.
The emotions travel down into the lower chakras, and if the spirit soul exits out of those lower chakras, then they go into like these hellish realms, which are self-created hells.
Is this
So
why?
in a sense, there is no hell.
Right. It's just up in the mindset, is what you're saying. So Amelia is saying, is this why some lives are harder than others? Is
It's
this why
more,
some lives are harder than others? Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
But,
Um,
but at the same time, if a person is having a hard life,
mhm.
they're just simply working off some karma.
See, that's interesting because some people who are just I always say, you've got to be a light being, and people will often resent people who are they are light beings, or kind, and their service to others, are not a self-serving individual, but yet they have the worst freaking things happen to them. I have someone in my life who's just like, I'm telling you, there are people up there watching, and they're putting plans in action. I'm like, oh, so they're just going to put plans in action to ruin your day? Yes. And I had a friend of
Right.
mine he does a lot of planetary work, and very, very gifted, elderly friend of mine who's been doing this for a million years. And he goes, oh no, he's not far off. What am I missing? I'm pretty open-minded.
Okay. The problem with what you're describing is that we don't have the perspective of the insight to be able to trace back into a past life
Unfortunately.
all the things that we did in that past life.
Right.
But all the things that we did in that past life are now manifesting and repeating in this life.
So basically the lesson is, this is karmic, so do it differently. Do
Yeah.
it better.
But at the same time, you have to have some kind of insight to realize, okay, these things are happening to me because in a previous life, I went and stabbed somebody, or I stole something, or I killed somebody, or I
Right.
lied, or cheated, or whatever it was that you did. It comes with you in the next incarnation.
Right. Right.
Okay. So the other thing is, every person that you know and interact with this in this life is someone that you knew in a past life.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Your soul circles, sort of
Yeah.
like your tribes, you follow through role playing and trying to get one another through all the karmic garbage,
Right.
I guess,
So,
that was
so like
created.
in a certain sense, I'm kind of like here paying you back the favor that you did for me,
Right. Right.
and vice versa. We're sort of
Yeah. We
we're
work it
not,
all
not
out.
just interacting. We're interacting again in this life.
Right. So I guess that answers this question. Can we collectively change our current timeline?
Yeah,
I think it comes down to, if you can work through all the karmic
yeah.
stuff.
That's really what it comes down to. Is
Yeah.
that collectively, um, we just need to stop paying attention to all this batshit crazy stuff
Hmm.
like it's a pissing on the leg thing
Right.
and
Again.
then telling
Yeah.
you it's raining.
Right. Right.
Orange is the new black.
Right. No,
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think so.
It's just saying one thing and making you believe that this is what you're seeing. Amelia says someone once told me that they refused to be an organ donor because they feared coming back missing that organ. I would be afraid of maybe having an imprinted energy
Yes,
from
that
that
okay.
individual.
This is
If
a
that's
really good description of what I think of as sympathetic magic
right. Okay.
in a sense because I don't know how much you know about magic,
I
but
dabble here and there. I'm versed here or there. Yeah.
let's get into voodoo a little bit here.
Okay. Let's do that.
Because everybody knows about the voodoo doll.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
take this doll, let's say, and you stick the person's photo on the doll and you start jabbing away with the pins, right?
Right.
That's sympathetic magic.
So that's intention then as well.
It's intention, but it's also visual and it's symbolic.
Right.
And that's what makes it magic.
Right.
So, exactly what that person was saying. If your organ gets removed,
That was Amelia. Yeah. Yeah.
that can create a problem for your next incarnation.
Right.
See,
So
you don't
you
want to
sh
have any
so
of
you
your
can come
organs
back
removed.
without that organ, basically.
There's always some sort of natural healing technique that you can detox the body. There's all kinds of things that you can do to
But
avoid having an organ removed. I mean, who would agree to that?
well, family members, things like that, I think it's a little bit different with, something that comes back. My thing would be a matter of, again, if we're not bound by the physical, okay, for us, it's essence, it's energy, it's frequency, it's vibration. Why should the physical matter? If you give up, let's say, an organ, why would it affect you coming back in a physical life? Heck, we might not even reincarnate back on this planet into this body. We could
Yeah,
reincarnate on another planet in another body that doesn't even have the same sort of organs.
the physical body is extremely important in a spiritual path because the saying there is that the body is the temple of God.
Right. Yeah, Dolly says, I'm an organ recipient. I know my donor. We are in constant contact and communicate issues to each other as a team to deal with our cooperative karma. Excellent. And she goes, but do not mix your DNA. Your DNA does not mix, is what she's saying.
It's a personal choice.
Yeah,
Whatever you decide to do with
free
your
will.
life is it's a sacred thing, in my opinion.
Right.
What you decide to do with your life is kind of like sacred, and there should be no trespassing and telling other people what to do with their life.
Right. Right. Yeah, Tamara says the body is a conductor of energy. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And
Right.
another interesting subject because this thing I was talking about, this multidimensional portal, and then
Yeah.
the downloads that come
Mm-hmm.
from ascended masters or ETs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that, in a certain sense, is what I think of as Shakti transference.
Okay.
Shakti means energy.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're getting a massive download from some deity or ascended master or maybe even ETs, there is a transfer of energy from one being to another.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really interesting phenomena. I've been sort of trying to find as much as I can on it
Hmm.
my whole life, actually.
Right.
Trying to read books on it and watch videos and get opinions about it because it's just something that fascinates me to no end.
I completely believe that, you know, beings of energy can transfer to other beings of energy. It's just it is energy. What it does. Moves around. It's transferable. Sometimes, if you're, I always say, when you're dealing in cleansings and things like that, even your own energy. If you're sitting there getting into an argument with somebody in your space and you take off for a couple of hours because you're all annoyed, and you come back and you're calmed down and you feel good and everybody's, life back to normal. Then you walk into that space again a few hours later, and then you wonder why you feel really foul. And you're thinking, God, why do I feel like so uptight? Because I believe that not only can you transfer energy, I believe you can project that energy out, telekinesis, psychokinesis, things like that. So it stays there. If you don't cleanse that, if you don't get rid of that, it just compounds onto itself. You go back in there, get in a fight in that room again, the next night, for instance, you have all this negative vibes. It does stay there. So, some of this energy has been known to grow into like poltergeist activity. It can actually manifest into its own,
Oh, what you're describing reminds me of the movie The Exorcist.
right? Yeah, there we go.
You could probably do a whole podcast just on that one movie.
For sure.
Linda Blair played the part of the 12-year-old girl,
Yeah,
and she was messing around with a Ouija board.
right. Yeah,
Okay, so now Captain Howdy comes in. Okay,
yeah,
so the whole thing is she invited this entity to come into her body.
right.
Okay, well, I don't know how far I should go into this because
Oh no, feel free. We believe me, we've tackled everything. I've been in the paranormal field for 20 years. You're not going to
yeah,
surprise me at all. So
my
please, yeah.
my opinion of well, the story was fiction. Okay,
Well, it's based on the story of a 16-year-old boy, and it's not anything like the movie. It took like weeks, like 6 to 8 weeks, to get that problem resolved.
yeah,
Of
well,
every day for a couple hours a day of constant barraging. It's definitely
yeah,
not as sensationalized, the head turning, crawling along the ceiling. So
well, the, the
yeah,
movie scared the daylights out of me.
until it came out. I know. Yeah.
Um, if you ask the question, uh, those two priests, did they succeed in exorcising the demon out of the little girl?
Hmm.
They didn't.
No, no. Usually it's more than a one-shot deal. First off, too. But
Yeah, the,
but
the, the older priest died.
yeah.
The younger priest made a huge mistake,
Hmm.
and he basically invited the demon into his body,
That's right. That's
and then
right.
he jumped out the window and toppled down the steps, and then he died at the bottom of the steps.
Hmm.
So, my take on something like that is, instead of inviting a Catholic priest, um, why didn't they invite a Satanist?
I think it has to do with, again, we're getting into mindset. I think you follow your faith. And when you're dealing with religion, they do have a way of instilling certain things into your psyche from the time you're very small. This is part of your upbringing, and I think this is where it gets ingrained into mindset. I even when I've worked with people, I'm like, what gives you faith? What makes you feel powerful? What makes you feel like you can combat this? I believe whenever you make an invitation to invite an energy into your body, you're taking a chance, and they take their invitations quite seriously, and they don't give it up that easily. And even in real life, this allegedly, in the real case, allegedly, this did happen. And the young man
Yeah.
went on to be a very, very successful individual. And the priest allegedly died eventually, and the
Yeah.
room in which he died in apparently is extremely haunted and is kept under lock and key.
I'm sure there's a lot of parents that are very grateful to the Catholic priest that exorcise these demons. I'm not trying to like
No, no, I understand. I'm just working with
criticize
that, the
Catholic.
whole, yeah, I understand
I'm
completely.
not trying to criticize the Catholic priest because
Yeah.
the service that they're doing by these exorcisms
And
is
in some
really
cases, yes. In some,
yeah. I mean,
I,
uh,
yeah.
they're saving a lot of lives,
Hmm.
by doing this. But the point I was trying to make is, like for example, the past 10 years or so,
Yeah.
I've gotten in touch with magicians and sorcerers and
Yeah.
uh, shamans and people that practice sort of like a left hand kind of path.
Oh, yeah. I know many as well. So you're
Yeah,
thinking, why go to religion? Why not use a practitioner who may have a better understanding?
exactly.
Yes. Oh, I get it. You would think that, Luciferians are and practitioners of occult magic, even who work with these entities and have a better understanding, and they end up with dialogue with them. That you think it would be better to say, "Hey, come on, let's work something out. Leave the
But
kid alone."
exactly
Yeah,
my point.
yeah.
Um,
I just because think is maybe people don't know about it.
yeah, they don't know what sorcery is.
No, and they probably don't realize that there are other options. With your religious mindset, like I was saying, we grow up and we're conditioned to believe a certain thing, and you're not conditioned to think outside the box,
Yeah.
right? Like people might
Well,
not know that I should go to the church teaches you that these people are frightening. Now you to say to
yeah,
somebody, go ask one of these people, you're like, I don't know about that, right? Like conditioning.
yeah. What I was thinking was, let's say they had called a sorcerer instead,
Okay.
and the sorcerer is familiar with this particular demon, or
Yeah.
just familiar with demons in general.
Yeah.
And so the sorcerer performs a ritual and makes an offering to the demon and communicates with the demon and says, "How long do you plan to stay in the body of this child?"
Right.
So the demon is communicating with the sorcerer,
Hmm.
but the way the Catholic priest does it is they come in with the holy
It's
water.
the demands and the commands and
Yeah,
the yeah.
like you're the authority. Like it's like an eviction. You
Well,
know, it's a power grab, is what it is.
think about demons on average, who a lot, where a lot of the names come from. If you look at some of the really ancient names, many of them were, back in the day, it was all about the gods, and a lot of these are pagan gods or Babylonian gods or different cultures believed in certain gods, and these gods ended up now they're on the in the dictionary of demons sort of thing.
Yeah,
So many of them are not going to take kindly to being sort of intimidated or have somebody coming at them with demands. Like I'm just dealing with certain mindsets, and I think maybe a lot of these other practitioners have more of an understanding of that as well. Like there's so many different theories, especially when you're dealing with energy and entities and things of that nature. I'm going to just try to get into back on track. Your brain uses frequency. Psychic communication uses the same exact frequencies. Okay, so let's use that for an example in doing this. So when you have people coming in with the whole, like, I command you to do this. I see this in spirit research. You get researchers coming in and looking at the demon. I command you to show yourself. It's just like you're a lowly human to this thing. I don't think it's really going to take your demands very seriously. But
Yeah.
with that being said now, and what Dolly is saying, your brain uses frequency, psychic communication uses the same exact frequencies. Could you not use that and just, we know they can communicate telepathically and try to just make that link?
Yeah. Well, like the second priest, the younger one,
Yeah,
he took on the demon.
right.
Okay. And, what I was describing earlier, like about compromising your priorities and
Yes.
someone who wins the lottery. But for a priest to take on a demon like that is to take on an energy that he doesn't know how to control.
No, exactly. You're taking a being of pure
like,
energy.
You grow up in poverty and then you win the lottery.
Right.
And you wind up spending it all and going crazy. And you probably wind up in debt.
Yeah.
Or in jail or dead.
Right.
That's because, these massive energy currents, we're not familiar with these currents.
Right.
We don't know how to handle them.
No, we can't just go out and thinking we're going to like part the Red Sea sort of thing, right? It's you have to do within.
You're sort of better off in a lower level of poverty if the amount of money that you get is the same every month and you know how to live with it and you know how to deal with it.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
All of a sudden you get like $100 million.
Lose your mind. You're like a kid in a toy store, right? Where do you start?
Yeah, but there's going to be somebody knocking on your door every minute.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That besides all that, absolutely, for sure. Amelia says, it amazes me what we can do as a collective with energy. Why are we not doing more to heal people? And even as a collective, what we were just talking about, how, like it seems to me like we could be solving a lot of our own issues and not having to bring people in at all if we really are able to tap into that collective. Chris says, I see a meshwork like a blanket of energy surrounding the earth and into space. Getting back into healing and such. Kathleen and Ball, hi Kathleen, I had to clear all the karmic issues with my donor liver and get spiritual permission from his family to let it go. Only then was I able to undergo the healing of my liver, make it mine, and as a result, stop the immunosuppression drugs during her ceremony of a Brazilian Amazon jungle. I have it stick 9 months later. That's fantastic. So again, it's a whole energy thing, right?
Yeah.
Dolly says your physical mind is coded like various computer to use. That's interesting also. I think there's just so much, a lot of the comments that I'm seeing here just shows that we're not really, I don't think there's so many people that just don't get it. Because everything you're saying to me, I think could be resolved if people had a better understanding, but people just don't seem to, it's almost like we should be taught this in school, how to exist in this world, yet we're just given this mundane stuff to barely get through life.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the Pink Floyd song, We Don't Need No Education.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you see all those kids in the video singing the song,
Right. Just
hey,
very.
leave us kids alone,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
What a great lyric.
It is. It makes you wonder where it comes from. Dolly says, in this physical timeline, in this dimension, we are physically living in it. The universe is a physical mainframe, like your mind, and there are 12 dimensions within the frame. What are your thoughts on that?
I've heard that, and I believe it's true.
Yeah, and then she says, now in the only the 2 lower dimensions have a timeline. That is really interesting. I did not even think that. And she goes, they are the same time space. Timeline, time and space, but what about reality, Dolly? It's like, what about that reality thing we're talking about?
Yeah.
Because I really do feel that, Amelia, I agree with you. And yes, I say get better and let's take care of that. Your mind is capable of contacting anything all across the universe. We are connected in real time together. So if we're all connected like that, should it be easier to be able to break this whole prison mentality, like change the timeline, change whatever's happening to us? Like, are we not powerful enough, do you think, Jim, to break free of that?
We're here to learn that and then to do it.
Right. Right.
You know, a lot of people right now are just sort of like in the beginning stages of, you know, being ready to transition, but they need to look at all of these blueprints of, you know, these dark agendas that have been on the planet for thousands of years and get an idea what that blueprint looks like, and understand that, you know,
Yeah.
they've been being screwed 6 ways to Sunday since they were born,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, they have to step out of this sort of Disneyland, you know, American dream, you know.
No, absolutely. I think that we are, again, I think a lot of it is conditioning. You know, you hear, especially with mainstream media, you know, religions, just the powers that be, any situation. I don't want to just center out, you know, anything specific, but I think if you're told every single day that this is how things are, then you start to believe this is how things are. But I believe that we also went backwards somewhere. And this comment completely reiterates that, at least for me, because the ancients were aware of so much. Our indigenous people are still aware of so much. She says the ancients were well aware of all of these energies and knew how to deal with them. There were ceremonies to cleanse the body and the land in ancient Egypt and even earlier. Unfortunately, mainstream religious belief systems wish to bury the information, probably to protect their parishioners, or just keep any of this knowledge and power to themselves, like, you know, any people of position. But unfortunately, it's taken the wisdom from common people who now don't have the defenses against these entities and a whole lot of other things. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
If they get lucky enough to jump through some hoops of fire
Right.
and get burned,
Right.
they'll learn how to defend themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, if you're faced with it, you're saying you'll instinctively know how to.
Yeah, you have to jump through some hoops of fire
Right.
to get to adept mastery and get the knowledge and that sort of thing.
Right. I agree. Well, I have to say, you're definitely lighting up the sound or the chat room here. You've got all kinds of people just lining up for questions. Here's one: is reality real, or is it an illusion of what we are told reality is? And are we really living, or are we just going day by day? That's a good question.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
okay, so Neo is talking to what's his name, Morpheus,
Yes. Yeah.
and Morpheus says, what's real?
Right.
Is this reality real?
Right.
Are we in the true reality?
Mm-hmm.
What is the true reality?
Exactly. And in your opinion, what is the true reality? We don't.
There is no true reality.
Right.
There,
Right.
there's only one reality, and we're in it.
Yeah. And time is an illusion. If you phone or video chat the other side of the world, you don't have to wait 13 hours to get a response. That's true. It's instantaneous. Oh God, all kinds of people. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. I think fear rules over power. Most people are fearful of what they don't know. This is also true. That's come up at least twice in here. So let's move along as to where you want to go from here. Now, let's talk about spider magic and all of this. And
Okay.
you've got some great stories here. So,
Okay. I want to tell you how I met John below Melchizedek.
okay.
Okay. When I went to Arizona in 2012, I gave a lecture. And 7 weeks before I went there, I did a reading and I asked the question, who am I going to meet during this lecture? And I got the name Christy. So during the lecture, my first question was, is Christy here? Is sitting right in front of me, waving her hand.
Right.
I'm Christy.
Okay.
But I said, well, I came here from Massachusetts to meet you.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, so right around the same time where I did this reading, I started understanding the process of spider magic.
Right.
I'm going to try and explain to you how spider magic works.
Okay.
Okay, so to begin with, you're caught on a spider web, let's say.
Okay.
You go into court, you're getting divorced, you're fighting, you're arguing, money problems, health problems. All of these things are all spider webs.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So what happens is eventually, in time, you get off the spider web. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're off the spider web. So what you do is you can visualize your desire and create a spider web.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
And that's what I did with Drenvalo Melchizedek.
Okay.
I pictured in my mind meeting him because I knew he lived in Sedona.
Right.
And I was on my way there. Okay. So here's what happened. I gave my lecture, and the next day I walked up to the top of the mountain, which I did every day when I was there. And I was looking out over the valley. And here comes this guy walking on the path, and he's carrying this little white puppy dog. It turns out that the dog was half wolf.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there looking over the valley, and this guy walks up to me and he says, "Hi, Jim." And I was like, "How'd you know my name?" He says, "I heard your lecture yesterday." So we started talking, and it turns out that before he got this puppy, he had a dream about the puppy, and in the dream, the puppy leaped into him.
Okay. Now that's definitely interesting.
Okay, so now he had this dream vision of this puppy, and then he came across this puppy and bought it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking away back and forth, and he says, "Would you like to visit a vortex?" Because there are vortexes in the mountains of Sedona. So I said, "Sure, let's go." So we went to the vortex. We climbed up to the top, but for some reason the vortex energy was making me sick and dizzy. So we climbed back down. I went back to my room, And by this time, I was really exhausted and I was tired and I was hungry and I ran out of food. But the supermarket was right next door. So I figured, okay, even though I'm tired, I'm gonna put my sneakers on. I'm gonna walk across the street and I'm gonna get myself a salad or whatever,
Right.
you know. So I walk into the supermarket. There's Drenvalo Melchizedek standing there right next to me.
Quite random.
So I was like, hey, I'm so and so. I invented this dice method, and
Hmm.
talking a little bit. The most amazing thing about this guy, he took my hands. He was holding my hands. He was looking right in my eyes as he was talking to me, and it was like looking into a great big empty room
Hmm.
that had nothing in it. Okay, and what I mean by nothing is that there's no tension in him. There was no anger. He wasn't neurotic.
Hmm.
He wasn't like sarcastic. There was nothing there.
Right.
It was like completely empty of human faults.
Okay.
All right. I never met anybody like that in my life. I met a lot of gurus,
Hmm.
and the gurus weren't like that.
They had no baggage. It was just like nothing. It was completely clear and void of thought.
Completely clear of all negativity.
Right.
Okay.
Just positive vibrations.
Okay. So what happened was he was with his daughter. So then he said to me, I have to go. I'm with my daughter. I said, okay. It was nice to meet you. And I was walking down the aisle, and he shouted out to me, remember, always serve others.
That's right. That's right.
And I wanted to tell you the story because that's how spider magic works.
Yeah.
So once you get off of the spider web that entangles your life, you have to realize that you're now in the moment where, because you're off the spider web, you can cast a spider web of your desire, like visualize it, cast it out there, and then you're going to catch it.
Hmm.
And that's what I did.
Wow. That's that's a little bit like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know how they say that you can will people to communicate with you or to come to you by looking at a photo and really intensely looking into the eyes and just putting a thought transfer. Is that the same idea as your spider web theory? Like your
It's it's similar in the sense that it's energetic.
right, right,
It's magic doesn't really have a fixed definition.
right.
Like for example, uh, you could step outside like at the end of summer
Mm-hmm.
when the leaves are falling off the trees.
Mm-hmm.
You can look down at a pile of leaves and you can predict the future
Mm-hmm.
by looking at those leaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do divination with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that has a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
If you know how to look into it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like gazing into a crystal ball and your vision gets a little blurry.
Mm-hmm.
It's that blurriness that allows you to see into the future.
Yeah, I could see that. I think a lot of it is intention and so on, and focusing and different levels of frequency. I think everything is about frequency and vibration and intention. I mean, if you are intending to put out that energy, and like I said, in this case, you wanted to meet this individual. are you in fact just putting that out into the collective and somehow it just makes its way around? Would that be a form of magic, is just putting it out there? Because the collective is, everything around you.
Yeah, I think the idea is visualize it in your mind and sort of cast it out as a spider web,
Right,
and then stop trying to make it happen.
right. The Fibonacci sequence. Did I say that right, Amelia? That's a big Italian word.
You know what that is, right?
Yeah. No bug. Maybe you can explain it to those who.
Spiral of numbers,
Right.
uh, one and then two. I forget exactly how it goes, but
Yeah.
it starts off as a small spiral and keeps expanding outward.
Right. There we go, Amelia. She goes, yes, that is correct. And I did say it right. So, what I'd like to do before we continue on is do a quick sponsor ID and station ID. So, thank you, everybody who are tuning in. My gosh, chat room is loaded tonight, even with the Facebook issue. So, thank you all for tuning in, and YouTube as well. You are listening to the Outer Realm Radio with our special guest, Jim Girouard. Am I saying your last name properly, or am I butchering it?
Yeah, it's a French name.
I'm French. I should know this. Is Girouard, right? Girouard.
It's pronounced Girouard.
Girouard. Oh, okay.
In the French document, it's pronounced Girouard, but
Girouard.
it's actually Girouard.
Girouard. Okay, Girouard. Okay, so I'm saying it half French and half English. Okay, so fantastic. Thank you for correcting that, and thank you for being here. This is definitely an enlightening and knowledgeable, educational conversation that we're having, and everybody's getting into it. We would definitely like to thank our sponsors, Folgers Coffee. Folgers, we love you. I feel like I'm on a certain game show host. Huh? Anyway, thank you. And thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for your contribution of our intro and outro. So thank you very much. And like I said, you're listening to The Outer Realm on United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM in the beautiful city of New Orleans. I just don't do it as nicely as Amelia does, but that's because I don't have to. I usually do the first and the last. So thank you. So I think we've got some other things coming in. Yes, the yummy coffee. Absolutely. Coffee. I'm going to put that up for Folgers. There we go. Folgers. Everybody loves you. So thank you. So Christina says, I think that works based on what we're talking about, only if the other person is on the same energetic wave. Otherwise, it will interfere with free will. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that one? There we go. I'll put up comments as we go along, but you'll pertain to the questions.
There has to be some agreement in order for telepathy to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if we're doing it that way.
You just can't go around reading people's minds.
No. I don't know. First of all, that'd be pretty darn gifted to be able to do that.
You can do that.
So you'd get bad juju if you tried to do that, I would imagine too, right? Does that fall into that karmic thing? Hey, Michael. Yeah.
Did you want to continue with the questions? I got a couple of stories.
No, you go in. Now I'm just posting up comments while you're speaking, so because they come up on the video, so people are able to see them. People who are watching and not just listening. So no, please go ahead.
Okay, a couple of years ago, I started having these dreams.
Right.
And I was seeing these people in my dreams. I recognized them, but their behavior was strange. So then I started realizing that these were dream agents, and that they were there to distract me.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
once I realized that they were dream agents and that they had some kind of agenda, that the next night I had a dream where I was talking to one of these agents, and I said to him, I know who you are and I know what you're doing. So the next night, I saw these dream agents, but they were 20 feet away from me, and they were scheming.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were scheming was how to get close to me again. Okay? So they wanted to come back, they wanted to manipulate and distract me and do all of these things.
So these entities, like, what is compromised of a dream agent? Are they malevolent? Are they extraterrestrial? How do they fit into
They,
the scheme of
they,
things?
they
That's
could
what
be
that's what Amelia's saying. Amelia, what is a dream agent?
a dream agent, as far as I understand it, is some form of archon or artificial intelligence
Archons, yeah.
type of being.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So this went on for a couple years. This kept happening, you know.
right.
And then about a month or so ago, I had this dream where I was walking into a room to look at the book of knowledge, and there was these two dogs pacing back and forth. And then I heard this voice say, "You don't have permission to be here." So I turned around and I saw these five dream agents. And I said to them, "You gave me permission to be here. Now you're telling me I can't be here?" I said, I'm going to walk out that door and I'm never coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Walked out the door. I was outside. And behind me, I hear this voice say, "Hey." And I turn around. The guy says, "You're never going to get your free energy."
Hmm. That's
Okay, so
peculiar.
a couple of weeks later,
Yeah.
I have this dream where now they're really coming after me. They're trying to kill me now because I defeated them. All
Mm-hmm.
right, I made it to the book of knowledge.
Can you explain to people what the book of knowledge is and its importance?
Okay, the book of knowledge is the way I perceive like eternity or the Akashic records or
Okay.
the all knowing mind.
Right.
Okay, so now I made it to the book of knowledge, and what I found out was that the new energy was going to be released to the public. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so now they realize that I penetrated through their wall and I penetrated through the veil.
Mm-hmm.
I defeated them. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now they're trying to kill me.
Right.
Okay, so one thing that happened was they sent this very attractive girl, but that didn't work because I didn't know her, and
Right.
we
Right.
weren't married, and I didn't know her, so that didn't work.
Right.
And they sent one of these dream agents, which kind of slipped under the blankets while I was sleeping, scared the living daylights out of me. And
Sounds like a succubus situation.
like I completely froze. I,
Yeah.
I could barely talk. And then there was this other part of the dream where I was walking down the street with a friend of mine, and I was telling him some things, and we came across these two teenagers that had rifles, and the teenagers turned around and started firing at us. So we ran the other direction, and there was all kinds of things like that happened in the dream where they're just trying to kill me now because I defeated them and I made it to the book of knowledge.
Mm. Right. That's interesting. So if they're coming after you, obviously this is like see Amelia and I sharing a brain again. She goes, is it a memory or is it actually a dream or is it actually a memory that maybe you're having? See, I'm trying to muster out the words and coming out of my head and she pops it out. So
Yeah, everything is a memory.
yeah, she says, could it be possible that it was actually happening?
Well, yeah, it happened. It happened on the astral.
Yeah, right. that's kind of frightening. It's like your dreams are being invaded, or it's like maybe you're just, is it a dimensional
Uh,
thing?
for the longest time, I was really trying to think of some kind of way to, stop them from appearing in my dreams and attacking me and
Right.
causing all of this anxiety and everything else. But now I'm not looking at it that way at all now,
Mm.
because now I feel empowered because I defeated them.
Right.
I made it to the book of knowledge. Now I'm reading the book of knowledge.
Okay.
And the other thing is, they stopped coming after me.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
you
they,
achieved the goal that they were trying to stop you from doing, right? You just
right.
busted through and you succeeded. So what do you get out of out of reading this? You're able to read this book. Where do you go with it? Like,
Well,
are you allowed to share that with the world, or do you have to keep it? Because not everybody is ready for something like that.
okay. Whenever you're listening to somebody telling you something, like especially in videos like this one,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have some kind of validation or a feeling or something that this person that's telling you that is honest and they're truthful, and that there's really something to what they're telling you.
Right.
And you get a certain feeling when somebody's like really trying to bullshit you.
Right.
You know, your bullshit meter starts going ding 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 ding.
Right. Right. Yes.
It
Yes.
just goes off like crazy, right?
Yes.
But if the person is totally real and sincere, and if they're resonating the message to you,
Mm-hmm.
then you get the feeling like this is the real deal.
Right.
Okay, so like what I mean by this book of knowledge is that what I'm putting out there is from intuition, and it's from resonance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's from truthfulness.
Right.
That's
Right.
where it comes from. So
Right.
the impact that it has or tries to have, let's say, is that it's a sincere message and that it's real.
Yeah. Right.
And if you don't have those qualities,
Mm-hmm.
you uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know you
Right.
might fool some people, but
Right.
eventually they're going to catch on to what you're doing.
Right. So what made you decide to lean into this whole world of magic? Because that's a pretty ancient thing, and people really don't
I
have.
Yeah, I can answer that actually. I
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's because the Hare Krishna lifestyle um, is sort of like the mode of goodness. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you chant mantras, you offer food, you do service to others. It's all like in the mode of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But I reached a point where I kind of felt like almost like I hit a brick wall or something.
Right.
And then I started thinking, well, I know all about this.
Mm-hmm.
What about the dark side?
Yeah. I did the same thing. Yeah.
I'm going over there now.
Right.
I'm going over to the dark side because I don't know anything about that stuff.
It's like a balance too, isn't it?
I know all about the Krishna stuff.
Right.
I'm going over there.
Right. Yeah. They have cookies. Let's
You know,
go.
I've been doing it for 20 years now.
Right.
I'm telling you, these sorcerers and magicians
Mm-hmm.
I know personally,
Mm-hmm.
they're very friendly.
Yeah.
They're very normal.
Yes. Yeah, I know a few. Yes.
They're extremely sane.
Yeah. Not what you would expect.
Yeah, and they're not trying to convert me.
Right.
That's the
Right.
best part.
Right.
They're not trying to sell me magazines. They're not trying to baptize me,
Right.
and they're not trying to turn me into a believer.
Right.
They're sort of like this.
So as long as you can,
They
but
keep
you
to
can
themselves.
balance it. That's
Yeah,
the key,
they
isn't
keep
it?
to themselves. They're sort of like this.
Right.
They keep to themselves. They're not trying to influence your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side,
Right.
they're always trying to convert people.
Right. Yeah, it's true. No, it makes you wonder, like it's a flip thing. Um, you get, I've often had people make comments and say, what if it's all the reverse? Everything we've been taught, what if it's reversed? What if it's all of this? I mean, the magic and everything else, this is stuff that has been going on with the ancient world for centuries, maybe thousands of years, maybe even pre-ice age. Those civilizations that go back tens of thousands of years, maybe older. We're not the first shot or kick at the can here. And then religion comes along with all of this. And I've had people say, what if it's all upside down?
Well,
What if that's the bad and this is the good?
when people ask me, like, what's your religion? I tell them I'm a satanic Christian atheist.
I'm a Heinz 57 of all of it, right? So I guess that people we leave them scratching their heads, going like,
I'm a multi-dimensional hippie redneck.
right? Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
what do you tell
yeah.
them?
No, I
How
agree.
do you answer a question like that?
No, it's true.
What's your religion? I mean, what does that mean?
I don't. Yeah, I don't have a. I always say I don't have a religion. I'm just a student. I just want to learn everything. I don't look at. I mean, and here, you said it perfectly well. Religion is a man-made thing. It is a man-made thing.
Yeah,
I think some of us evolve past that sort of thing. You have your faith, you have your beliefs. Why does there have to be a title to it? Why does there have to be a tag on it?
did you know that there are heavenly planets for atheists?
A what? Sorry.
There are heavenly planets
Okay.
for atheists.
So tell us about that.
Okay.
Why do the atheists get a planet and the rest of us don't? I'm kidding. No, tell me about it.
I hope you don't get any bad emails on this one because
Don't.
the born agains are going to flip a Twinkie when they hear this one.
Okay, so we respect the views. I have to do the full disclaimer. We respect
Let
the views of
me
all of our guests. So,
explain it this way. Okay.
okay. Yeah.
Let's say you have an atheist. Okay.
Yes.
Now this particular person doesn't believe in God.
Right.
Okay. But this person is kind, very thoughtful, does a lot of things for other people.
Hmm.
I might even run into a building that's on fire, save someone's life.
Hmm.
Okay. And then that person dies.
Right.
Okay. There are heavenly planets that are designed for these types of people. And they go to this heavenly planet because they were very loving and very kind and very thoughtful
Right.
in their life. But here's the thing. On that particular heavenly planet, there's no God.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, there's no God, there's no religion.
But is there not? Because to me, faithful people, I'm not religious in any way, shape, or form. And I have friends from all walks of life. I have some, like Christian friends. I've got Luciferian friends. I've got all kinds of friends from one end of the spectrum to the next. Most will tell you there is a creator, and they have a strong belief and faith of whoever that creator may be. I think you get those who, I feel, when you start tagging things, like, you know what I mean? There's a tag. There's a tag on this is religion, this religion, this religion. Now, how about just a faith? Because at the end of the day, does it not come down to what your faith is? I look at many different belief systems, and they all have names for their God. And I see that some more Christian faiths, it's like, well, his name is God. well, his name is Yahweh, technically. Why, some will address him as that, but then you have some that they just don't address them by the names that they were given. It's just strange. Everything is a label. It's not necessarily a name. It's a label.
Right.
So I don't know. Call me crazy, but maybe I'm off with that one. But I'm funny with labels. I don't like them. Christina says, "May I ask if you're more drawn to the dark side or to the Krishna side?"
I'd have to say both. The dark side is created by Krishna.
Right. Okay. So maybe maybe
Dark
explain. Yeah.
side.
Right.
Krishna is the dark side.
Oh, see, we're talking about that flipping thing. Like you're gonna have
Right.
a lot of people like sending you hate mail. Send the hate mail to Jim. I'm only the messenger.
Oh,
Only the
no, don't
platform.
say it to me.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard of Shiva, right?
Right.
Shiva is sort of like the dark godhead in a sense.
Right.
He is in the mode of goodness,
Right.
but
I,
the Satanists and the sorcerers and the magicians, they love Shiva
right.
because they think of him as a demon.
Right.
Some of them even think that he is a demon,
Okay.
but he's actually the Godhead. Uh,
Mhm.
he's in the mode of goodness, but he's the dark side of
Right.
of the Godhead
Right.
in the mode of goodness.
Right. At the end of the day, we're just looking at, I mean, a lot of different perceptions with a lot of that. People, it's the age old question. It's the age, it's the question and it's the belief that have started wars, like
Uh,
religion, power,
it's just
money, all of that.
there's so many religious people out there that you kind of feel like you're walking on eggshells trying
Hmm.
to communicate ideas to them because uh, you know th- they're just totally indoctrinated
Right.
with all these belief systems.
Hmm.
It's all about belief.
Well, spirituality doesn't make you question all of that. It doesn't give you demands. I think religion as a label puts a lot of demands, on people. Like you do this, don't do this, don't do this. I've seen more wars, or not, seen personally, but when you're reading and you're researching our history, there have been more wars waged in the name of God, and it's just like that doesn't sound very spiritual to me.
Yeah,
It sounds very controlling to me.
the American Indians, um, the the men believed that the female was much more spiritually advanced than men were,
Right.
and that's why the men, in order to be on the spiritual path, would
Hmm.
go out into the woods for 2 weeks
Right.
alone and just sit and meditate, for the
Hmm.
entire 2 weeks and listen to the sounds of the wind and the birds and
Right.
the animals. And in most cases, they would have a vision.
Hmm.
In this vision, they would see a deity, a interdimensional deity
Right.
that would, maybe continue to appear to them and teach them certain things that they needed to learn. But
Hmm.
the women weren't required to do that because the female is the original creator.
Thank you.
Okay? The creation of the universe begins with the female, not the male.
Right. Right. No,
That,
it's true. The whole goddess worship, all these goddess temples, it really is. And I think religion came in and changed that up from the goddess worship to the male counterpart.
yeah, a lot of the original traditional ways of rulership, like in villages and tribes and things like that, thousands of years ago, was all matriarchy.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
as Amelia says, a way to govern and control the changes. Yeah.
yeah. And then what happened was the men sort of stepped in with a big hijack, and they went to Africa, and they started their patriarchy sort of campaign in Africa, and started requiring that you get a piece of paper and you have to sign it, and pay the justice or the priest to get married.
Right.
And the woman was a prostitute and she was a whore, and on and on and on. They created all this sort of patriarchy stuff,
Hmm.
and now it's like it's pathetic what they're doing with the female energy. But things are turning around.
Hmm.
Now the matriarchy
Hmm.
is starting to come back.
I do believe that I see more and more of that. That those were the ancient ways. I have a friend who actually has a collection. He's an antiquities collector of the goddess Venus statues that go back some 25,000 years.
Yeah,
They're dated that old. I mean, they're thousands of years old, and that's probably the oldest piece. But it goes to show you that this was indeed a mindset of the ancients that go back way back. All
yeah,
these temples, think about it: goddess Athena, Venus, Diana. These are goddesses.
yeah.
But then we had Zeus, and then later on started coming in with the male counterparts as well. So yeah, I agree with that.
If this world was ruled by women, you wouldn't have the war machine shit show.
I think it depends on who's ruling. I could be a little volatile. But no kidding.
Yeah, well,
But no, I understand. We're right-sided thinkers, right? With the emotion and we don't have it's not like a competitive, like the left-sided thinker being the male brain, right? Just being very the hunter-gatherer, just conqueror. Basically is what you're saying. If it was women, it would be much kinder.
yeah. A quote by James Gilliland.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go find out what Grandma thinks.
right. Right. I say do it and we'll have another show. So, no, for sure. Absolutely. Um, so let's just get back again to like you have past life memories, right?
Okay, let's
Of
explain it this way. All of your thoughts are all past life memories.
right,
All of them.
right.
But what happens is when these memories try to rise up to the surface
Hmm.
of the thinking mind in the awake state,
Right.
your mind is so indoctrinated from mind control that those past life memories never make it to the surface.
Isn't that strange? We're not conditioned to be able to easily remember our past lives. Like I've had a lot of that come to me in forms of snippets and memories, dreams, sort of downloads. But yet, when you're having all this trauma, it's essentially past life trauma. So it's like very selective as to what it lets you have.
Yeah, just recently I did a reading and I sent it to this married couple out in Europe.
Right.
And when the guy's wife read the reading, a few minutes after reading it, she had a vision, and in the vision, she saw a Egyptian high priest by the name of Amun, otherwise known as Amun Ra.
Right. Right.
And then she realized that this Amun Ra that she was seeing in the vision was me in a past life.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So
Ra,
basically, there's a connection. Right.
Amun Ra.
Right.
Okay, it's what the Christians say at the end of a sentence.
Hmm.
You know,
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That's right. Amen.
Addressing Amen Ra.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you have to know who you were and what your past lives were in order to realize who you are.
I'm fortunate that I do have some of those that have come through, and I think a lot of it has to do, and I'm sure you'll agree because it's basically what you're on your path is I believe it has to do with what our path is currently. You're given what you need for your tools to get through your life here. Like if you have to be in a position where you need to make a difference and teach a lesson to multitudes of people, I believe you're going to be given those snippets a lot easier, let's say, than if you're just coasting through life and not doing anything productive with the information,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because you seem to be on the same path. You're given your snippets and it's allowing you to evolve to get through this basically with the tools you need to make people understand,
yeah.
right?
I,
Christina said, no, go
I,
ahead.
I want to tell you something that happened in 2012.
Okay.
After I met Christy in Sedona, she introduced me to Charmian Redwood,
Okay.
and she did like a trance type of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And in this meditation, she took me up into the constellation of Orion, and there was a council of 12. And what they told me was that they had created a grid on Earth, especially for me to fulfill my mission on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, right around the same time, same year actually, I got a reading from it was the voice of Egypt. And the voice of Egypt was telling me to use the dice method to find the reincarnated souls of Egypt that are now presently reincarnated and unite them together through
Mm,
the method.
yeah,
Okay, so now what's happening is
I'm with Amelia.
getting, um, I'm getting validation from other psychics
Hmm.
that this is actually happening.
Right. I believe people who have significant paths throughout all of their lives will eventually come to, as a lot of people will tell you we're going through another big transition, and a lot of people have to come together as per. I mean, you're looking at certain lives. You had some pretty significant players, in Egypt. You really did, and maybe they do have to come together at some point. It's like they'll tell you, we're getting near a point where light workers have to all sort of join together, and people who can work. Like I can tell you just from my own experience in the last probably 4 years, I have met some of the most exceptional people, even before doing, like the radio show consistently. People have always sort of come to me in 2 decades because I've done a lot of media. So I'm out there and you recognize one another and, how it's explained to me. I have met some of the most gifted people that I've ever met in my entire career of the last 2 decades in the last probably 4 years. And they do some of the most exceptional things that pertain to working with the planet, working with the collective, working with the planets, the stars, the moon, and you could literally see things unfolding. And not everybody, I mean, I believe a lot of people are capable of doing that, but I believe it's something that transcends lifetimes of
Yeah,
experience.
uh, some of these people that you've been meeting could be acting within a capacity of mentor.
Very possible. Maybe
Yeah,
they're just there to wake you up, or maybe they're just there because you have a component within your abilities that works well with theirs. And
yeah,
when you connect the dots, all of a sudden, you can just simply do even more magnificent things.
yeah. Uh, they could be just there for you to, you know, bounce ideas off of.
Sure. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. I think it's definitely turning out to be an interesting journey
Yeah,
on different
you're in
levels.
a position where, uh, you know, you're acting as a mentor for a lot of other people, but then who's your mentor?
Right. Right.
You know,
I think I have several. I've always considered myself to be a student. I love to research and I accept a lot that comes towards me. Part of the platform of the show is bringing in people from the top of their fields, and I am the same as everybody else who are listening. I'm absorbing it. I'm learning. I'm educating myself. So like you've said some things tonight that I'm like, come on, for real. So I'm still learning, and to me, I absorb that. I welcome that.
I think you have to be a little outrageous, really.
Why?
You got to stir things up.
You want me to stir things up?
Yeah, I mean, it stimulates the thinking process.
Right. You can also get me booted off of YouTube.
Well,
So, and out of a job.
you got
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
you have to tear up the tarmac and kick the devil's ass.
Right. Oh, that's pretty regular basis for
You know,
me. I have a good team.
a big part of gaining knowledge is stirring things up.
Right. I agree with you.
Okay, did you know that the stabilizing factor of the material world is chaos?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, don't have to explain that one.
No, absolutely. But we are at the top of the hour already. It just flew by, and I'm so grateful that you came back on. And I know that there's a lot we didn't get to, and I know that there's probably even more that you have going on. So you'll have to email me again. I would love to have you back on if you would like to join us again.
I got a lot of stories I could tell you.
I love it. I love it. No, so I do love this time that you spend with us. I think that you're a wealth of information. You have really interesting things to talk about. And Amelia says, there we go. Thank you, Jim. Sorry I couldn't be on. So maybe she'll just get herself feeling better. And by the time you return, because we are booking now into the fall, but by the time you return, my gosh, you better be okay. So
I want to tell you how a friend of mine got over COVID.
okay. Listen up, Bubbles. Go ahead.
He was eating a bag of spinach every day and drinking pomegranate juice.
Wow. Are you listening, Bubbles? So that's okay. We'll get you the archive. She goes, anything. I'll do anything to just get over this. It's been 22 days. So, well, thank you again, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us. I will email you, and we can jam a little bit about where to continue on, and we'll book you right away because we book super quick.
Okay, cool.
All right, I love it. Thank you so much again for joining us, and you have yourself a good weekend.
Thanks for having me on again.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
All right. Yeah.
Night night. Well, we have come to the end of another fabulous segment tonight. I mean, the chat room, I'm still reading everything, and it's just like amazing. So thank you everybody who tuned in. Big thank you to Jim for being awesome. He's a really good sport. Thank you, Folgers Coffee, for just being Folgers and being totally awesome and hanging in there with us. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for your contribution as well. Please head on over to our YouTube channels, International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal, and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, and give a subscribe and check out some of the archives. There's some great shows on there. Don't forget us about little us at the Outer Realm on Facebook, and support us over there. Amelia does a great job of keeping the page up. So head on over, check out who's coming up next. If you want to communicate with us directly, please, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. It's the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Tomorrow night, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show when Jim mentioned him, Frank Jacob is coming on. And holy crud, all I can say is this guy is bloody awesome. And I think he's got so many different topics he can be communicating about. I think we're going to be talking about extraterrestrials, raising consciousness, secret space technology, probably for starters. And he could get here and have an entirely different array of things to talk about. But either way, you just are not going to want to miss it. So definitely tune in. Until then, Amelia and I bid you all a good night, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye now.